Hello, everyone. Um, I'm here once again with the guitar practice sesh. I need to put new strings on my guitar, but today I just want to do a side reading session. Just have fun with the instrument and see how beautiful this music is. I have some sonatinas and some baroque guitar, and I guess I just want to go through them and read them and continue to learn. You know what I'm saying? Okay, cool. So here, this is the Melbay Volume 1. We have from the Baroque, Johann Anton Lossi, Francesco Corbetta, Robert de Bizet, Francois Champion, of course, Domenico Pellegrini, Ludovico Roncalli, Gaspar Sanz, Antonio de Santa Cruz, Francisco Gurao, Santiago de Murcia, a lot of pieces from Santiago de Murcia, Ernest Gottlieb Baron with a Folk Sonata, and I'm surprised no Bach on this publication. Interesting. The wealth of excellence in music of the Baroque guitar and Baroque lute forms a rich and very important part of the natural repertory for the modern classical guitar. Nevertheless, relatively little of this literature has found its way into the common usage. No kidding, this music is super old. The resources are all in tablature, which not all guitarists are fully conversant, and a few modern editions have provided effective and practical performance versions. There are notable exceptions to this, however, including the fine publications of Frederick Nowat. David Grimes is the author of this book, so pretty good. Guitar students often proceed for the well-known Suite in D minor by Robert de Bizet directly to the wonderful but obsequious and very difficult lute suite of Bach. I don't know what the Suite in D minor by de Bizet is, so let's just open. Let's just open a little bit of Spotify. All right. Well, while this computer decides to work. Robert de Bizet and no kidding, Saraband. It was that it? No, Suite in D minor. Robert de Bizet. Suite in G major. Where's Suite? Seymour? Suite number 9, maybe? Is that it? This is what it says. I heard this piece before. Beautiful. Okay, so let's keep just reading. Um, a few contains not, but a few pieces turns. Ah, a very vehicle loot suites of back. And an observer might indeed conclude that the repertoire contains nothing but this. A few pieces by Sands and various transcriptions of work by Bach, Scarlatti, and Handel. I hope that this collection will help us spur interest in the vast and largely untaped repertoire for the plucked string instruments. I would like to express my deep gratitude for the assistance, advice, encouragement, and friendship of Andrew Charlton. Without his patience and prodding, this volume will have been finished just later, if at all. Beautiful. Okay, then we have a beautiful set of rules of how to play the music, which we're gonna read right now. Okay? So it's a collection from the guitar tablatures. This is what it is, like a transcription from original tablatures, which is very very fascinating. I love that. Okay. Into the editorial policy, adapting Baroque lute and guitar music performance on the modern six-string classical guitar presents unique problems. The bass range on the lute and the alto range and re-entrant tuning on the Baroque guitar make possible certain harmonic voicings and melodic devices that are at best cumbersome and at worst possible on the six-string guitar. I don't know what cumbersome means. Let's Google it. Large or heavily and therefore difficult to carry. Okay. Transcribers must continually make choices as to proper octaves for various notes, and those choices are usually based upon an individual judgment and preference in voice leading. It is often difficult to settle up upon consistent and defensible editorial policy. Okay, they're taking they're letting us know why they choose all these decisions. They're saying, it's very tricky to do transcriptions to the guitar. At one extreme, one might attempt to reproduce as closely as possible what a piece will have sound like on the original instruments. This almost always results in a lateral transcription that is awkward to play and constricted in sound. At the other extreme, one could essentially disregard the original concept, making an argument that is as much the work of the arranger as the composer. Huh. Well, they did say argue. This can produce very playable and effective pieces, but the original flavor and style is often lost in the process. I have at various times been passionately committed to both extremes, but eventually dissatisfied with both. For this publication, I have chosen a mid course, entirely pragmatic, but as faithful as possible to the original concept insofar as that might be discerned from the often ambiguous tablature. Hmm. I'm gonna have to read that sentence again. I have chosen a middle course, entirely pragmatic, but as faithful as possible to the original concept, insofar as that might be discerned, insofar as that might be discerned from the often ambiguous tablature. Insofar as tablature. What will he mean? I don't know. Maybe that it can be confusing whenever you're reading the tablature and be like, what do you mean? And then he had to make some decisions. I will go with that then. Okay. Since these arrangements, not strictly transcriptions indicating each alternation from the original, will be extremely widely, making this volume impractically large. The arrangements are indeed to be practical performance additions. I have given serious considerations to the intentions of the composers, but where they are in conflict with playability and instrumental effectiveness, I have adopted four practical solutions. Admittedly, other choices could be more that might be equal defensible, and I strongly recommend that serious students consult original sources whenever possible, of course. Tempi are indicated editorially, but it should be remembered that any piece of music can be effective, often in different ways, over a considerable range of tempo, and that given metronome numbers merely represent the editor's judgment rather than any absolute maxims. Maxims. Note values are generally given as a practical possibilities with the finger indicated rather than as a theoretical intentions and durations. In a few places, expressions making articulation have been indicated. These are entirely editorial, such markings being quite rare in the Baroque tablatures. Fingerings are indicated to clarify musical concepts or to suggest solution to the particular problems. A fair number of orthodox or backwards fingerings have been offered where problems, a fair num have been offered where they seem to afford the most practical ways of executing the passages effectively, since the interpretation of any pieces is closely related to the specific fingers chosen. Each guitarist should be encouraged to explore other possibilities before selecting the one that best suits his or her musical concept and technical ability. Okay, now to the notation. So this was the editorial policy, just saying like, you know what, we had to make some changes. The music was tricky. It was original for the lute. It was original for other instruments. We need to make it playable. So that's why we did that. All right, notation. For the most part, the notation used here follows standard classical guitar usage, but a few items warrant special mention. See also the sections on ornamentation, which is the next page. Um, it says hinge bar, sustaining an important note while other voices sometimes require that a part of a full bar be placed early or released temporarily. Such cases indicated here used by the symbol CV, hinge bar, where you do this, okay, with your finger. Okay. The campanella, a device much favored by many Baroque guitarists with the finger of scale passage as though they were arpeggios. Consecutive notes are stopped on different strings, using open strings whenever possible and allowing each note to ring for as long as possible, at least until it heard clearly against the next note of the passage. The delightful and felteous reminiscence of the sound of small chimes. This will be noted and clarified by the fingering. CAMP, that's campanella. Now we have battery. Until the mid 17th century, most guitar music was played as a sequence of strummed chords. Later in the period, the strums were combined with individual plucked notes, many different ways of executing the strums, some quite elaborated but always light and air like, are described by various Baroque tutors. This is an integral element of style and should not be avoided. The symbols used here are down, strums from the bass strings towards the treble, usually with the thumb, strums from the treble towards the bass, usually with the index finger or middle. This is normally somewhat lighter than the thumb strum. More elaborate first battery produced by combinations of fingers in conjunctions with the thumb. So I can just use the thumb or this. Okay. Reprise. Many French dances use the reprise, a short phrase repeated and often quietly. At the end of each piece, after a normal repeat, when indicated the refrain from this is played once more following the final repeat. At this time, judicious addition or detention of a rest will be necessary to make the beats come out right. A short phrase repeated, often very quietly, at the end of each piece. Okay, that's gonna be interesting. I haven't played a reprise ever from French music. That's interesting. Hemiola, a striking rhythmic device found frequently in Baroque dance music in all triple meters, is the hemiola, where rhythmic stresses on beat 1 and 3 of one measure are followed by a stress on beat 2 of the next, producing the effect of two measures combined into a single measure of double length with double note values. Where possible, this has been indicated explicitly by the beaming of a specific group notes by the player should watch, for example, throughout this repertoire. A striking rhythmic device found frequently in regular music is a triple meter is the emiola, where rhythmic stress on beat 1 and 3 of one measure are followed by the stress on beat 2 of the next. Like a change of beat. Okay, here we go. Ornamentation. This is a very good source of rules for ornamentation and all that stuff. Um, okay. Baroque ornamentation is largely and complex subject, and the following notes are intended only as the most basic guidelines. Further, it must be understood that ornamentation is only part of a larger topic of embellishments, the process by which a performer flashes out and personalizes the Baroque composition. Beautiful. Um, Ornamentation indicated in Baroque and lute guitar tablature is generally simple, limited, and three or four different symbols. Those symbols are not the same standard in music usage. They do not always mean the same things. They differ from one composer to another, and sometimes the intention is not all clear, except for the general type of ornament intended. In this edition, I have used standard ornament signs, but in many cases, another ornament from the same family might be substituted. Okay. Baroque trills and arpeggiatura normally have important harmonic implications. They serve to introduce dissonance, which must be felt as points of tensions in the music. That means that they will begin on dissonant notes on the beat and resolve on consonances. Okay, important harmonic implication, and they will serve to introduce dissonance. That means that they will begin in a dissonant note and resolving consonants. The resolution of a trill should not be felt until the final note of the ornament, and so the note resolution should not appear on the strong beat or part of the beat until the final note. The resolution of a trill should not be felt until the final note of the ornament. Okay, and so the note of the resolution should. of a trill should not appear on a strong beat. Okay. Boom, yeah, it has to end in the. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. This is beautiful explanations. Appoggiaturas are generally long, usually taking half or more of the value of the main note, but they must also conform the overall rhythmic movement of the piece. Appoggiaturas from the upper auxiliary are closely related to trills and might be substituted for trills in many cases. Those from the lower auxiliary are similarly related to mordents, and the analogous substitutions are again appropriate. In this edition, the trill signs have been used for both trills um, and opera appoggiaturas, and in the modern sign have been used for both modern and lower appoggiaturas. Many important appoggiaturas have been written out explicitly. Although many ornaments are integral parts of the composed texture and hence obligatory, some of the noted ornamentations is not mandatory but rather suggestive. The ornamentation is to be used to amplify and clarify the basic musical ideas, not obscure them. Standard Baroque practice is also mandated that the performer alter or elaborate the ornamentation repeat sections. The examples below illustrate common and fairly basic realizations from the standard ornament signs used in this edition. Specific realizations should always be selected to complement the tempo and mood of the passages, as well as to sound natural and grateful in performance. All right, and now we have some examples. Now we can play. Finally, we have the prowl trailer or the short trill. In many situations, another ornament involving an upper neighboring tone, usually an upper appoggiatura, might be substituted according to the preference of the performance. So we have a D minor chord here, and then we have a trill on top of the C sharp. And it says starts on the upper note, so it should be. Oh, but I have this with the thumb. Again. And then I can also play it like this with eighth notes. Okay. An accidental written above the trill sign applies that indicated alteration to the auxiliary tone is used in the trill. For example, tambour the switch, page 8. That means that the upper trill is going to be natural. So the key is B flat major, and we have F and D. Sorry. And then I have G and B, E flat. Okay. One more time. Okay. Then it tells me what notes I should play. I should play triple A, tic-a-ta-tam, tic-a-ta-tam, tam, tam. Jesus. It sounds so horrible. need to get better with my trills. But that's interesting. Whenever it says a natural symbol on top, it's a natural note. That's what I'm used to hearing them sound like. When the sign occurs in a cadential figure, the trill is almost always intended. The trill frequently begins with a prolongation of the nascent dissonant note, which acts as an appoggiatura and reinforces the harmonic function of the ornament. So now the next one, it's a little bit of a trill, same thing, but there is no natural mark on top. So I just have this. On top of the first B, I have a trill. So I start on the upper note again, and I have to stop that E. So I have this. Two. So we can have that clear A. One more time. Or I can play it extending that trill. Three times the B. The first one is only two. Or I can do one. I can do three. Something like that. Okay. Moving on with more trills. These are fun. These are very fun. When a short trill is followed by a two-note termination called the Nachschlag, a common execution is a trill in measure note values. The Nachschlag is part of the trill with no break between the two parts of the ornament. Also, it's a part of the trill with no break between two parts of the ornament. Okay. So I guess it's whenever they write an exit note, because it's written like this: D major. I have G, C. That's where it's written. The C sharp has the ornament on top. So I have 1, 2, 3. One more time. Sorry. Now if I put the trill, you see? Doesn't really make sense, but whenever I put all the notes in, and I'm pretty sure it's go to D. And it's not as fast. And I think that's why it's important to recognize these guys, because I would have just played, but it's not that. 8 notes. That's a natural lag. Okay, that's very cool. We see another example here with the champion gig. Same key, D major, but now we're in a 6/8. So it's gonna be one. That's what is written. One, two, three, 1, 2, theta. That's what it's written. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. Now, if we the trill is on top of the E. Oh, but it's an F sharp. But because it's a Nash schlag, I need to hear Google say it for me once, because you know I have that huge accent, and sometimes I can make things up. Nash schlag. I don't really like saying German words. I'm not a huge fan of, you know. Here we go. Naschlag. Well, how do you pronounce it? Google? All right, here we go.
Nachschlag.
Nachschlag. Nachschlag. All right, we have. Okay, now I'm gonna do it with the tune. I think I have to do this. One more time. Very easy. I like these trills. I like the Nash lag better than any other trills. I can surely tell my one viewer, thank you so much for joining, that my favorite trill is a Nash lag, which is where is this from? Is this in English? No, it's gotta be German. German music. It doesn't really say, but a very safe guess will be German. But anyways, now we're going with the Spanish trills. In the music of the Spanish baroque guitarists, the trill often has melodic significance only, with little or no harmonic implications. So it doesn't really matter the resolution as it did with the other guys. I don't know. I'm just making something. This one. Baroque trills have important harmonic implications, and then it says Spanish Baroque trills often has melodic significance, no harmonic implications. Wow. In such cases, it is proper to begin the trill or even an inverted mordent on the main note instead of on the upper auxiliary. Wow, no wonder why it's so confusing. This will apply to music of Sands, Santa Cruz, Garou, but not in the French-influenced dances of Murcia, where there is a possibility of added harmonic interest. However, the trill may still begin in the upper note as an appoggiatura. Interesting. This is beautiful. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. This is the melody. Now they write the trill on top of the F, and they don't say start from the upper note. They don't want. These guys want because it's Spanish. And it's also fast. I'm playing at D7 for the curious there. And it also says titita, titita. Okay. Wow. This is on the pasacalles of songs. Okay. Now for the long trills, this trill continues for the entire value of the main note, usually in measure note value. What? This trill continues for the entire value of the main note. Oh, and it's a little bit longer. It has 3 waves. So again, D major, and we have D, C sharp. So the trill now starts on the upper note. So one D theta, 2 D theta, 1. There has to be a better ways to play. I'll play it like this. Cross string trill. This, I'm sure any kid on elementary school will play it better than me. Oh. No. I'll practice it, but maybe here. Long trills. Okay. Another ornament. How many ornaments we have? Just a few. Extended arpeggio. Wow, this looks beautiful. I want to continue to shoot this, but I think I have a student waiting for me. Straight on the dots. On the dot. I'm gonna put my nail file here. But let's see. Oh, this is awesome. This is a first exercise. This one. Oh. Jesus. 120. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Ta, ta, ti, ta. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I should get it better. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1. Two. All right. Well, let me see if my student is here. If not, I'll be back. Doing more shorts. Love you, America.